There he is. Oh! No! 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 That's it. It's over. So that was my first attempt at a hardcore run of Grounded. We ended up dying on like day 11. What a numpty. Hello right bags, it's Jade, I'm back and we're trying it once more, but I didn't want to have to make you sit through another 10 episodes of me getting to the same spot. So here's a compilation of my first 10 days of survival. You may have seen some of this footage used for some of my guides on how to survive, and then the next episodes you're going to see are back on the Let's Plays and continuing to see if we can complete Grounded without dying in 100 days. Let's go. So you know the score, go and turn on the mysterious machine. Stop the mics, tune through the cables in the mic cave, and bam, we've got our first objective. Head over to the oak tree. Picked up that annoying robot burgle. Nah, I'm only messing, I love you really. And then we went ahead and back home and got ourselves a little bit of food and scanned a bunch of stuff, as you should be doing all the time. Scan as many items as possible. Next day I ran around and got the rotten larvae blade, which is pretty decent for a first kind of gear set. Absolutely decimating some ants, and we got enough ant parts to go ahead and craft some ant armor. As you can see, I broke my clover one that I'd already crafted. Got ourselves the anvil, so go ahead and upgrade our weapons and armors, and headed back over to the oak tree to get some resources, where I got really lucky and managed to get a stink bug cheesily stuck and a whale dunning with a bunch of arrows in about 2 hours. This would help out massively in getting a gas mask early in the game. Dug up a bunch of grubs around the oak tree because you need a ton of them as well, and I was debating about getting the grub armor before finishing off the night with a little trip down the abandoned anthill. We took on some of the bigger, badder soldier ants. The rotten larvae blade coming in handy, poisoning them and helping do a lot more damage, and I'd already managed to craft a weevil shield as well, pretty much a must when taking on any type of creature like this. Started gathering some of the upgrade rocks as well, since we now had the anvil and could get some sweet upgrades, as well as getting some pieces for our ant armor. Next day we went over to the proper red ant hill, and I was a bit of a numpty. I totally forgot to put on my actual armor and meant I was getting attacked by these guys. Remember, if you're wearing a full set of proper armor, they'll leave you alone. They'll think you're the best buds, as long as you don't try taking any of their eggs in the actual ant hill. Huge amount of upgrade rocks, marble, as well as the quartzite, so you can get more damage and definitely defense for your armors and weapons. And we got all that, as well as the rotten bee armor set, all 3 pieces, and of course the anthill chip, which is pretty useful in early game. Headed back to the oak tree, scanned a bunch more resources, and handed the chip to Burgle to unlock some of the new science chip unlocks. Before the day was over, I decided to go and get the rotten bee stinger. Bit risky, especially in a hardcore playthrough without any breathing apparatus, but if you know where to go by the lily pad, you can dive right down, hopefully avoiding the bell spiders, and you've got a decent weapon, especially once we get the rotten berry charm, but that's a bit later. Some more analysing, and it was now day 4. We got our smoothie table set up, pretty vital for a hardcore run, especially when we get the muscle sprouts to help give us even more health, but for now the grub loop would do. Spent the rest of the day going to find some locations to try and unlock Natural Explorer, and I spotted a bombardier beetle, so I decided to see if I could mess with it, as we would need a lot of the boiling glands from this. So if you're confident in the early days of playing Grounded or have got experience, it's worth farming these as soon as you can. You need 4 for each oven, as well as a whole variety of other stuff, so it's definitely worth killing bombardier beetles as often as possible. Gotta say, they're still probably one of the most dangerous creatures in the game. You'll be surprised how you can forget about the acid on the floor when it drops. That can do a huge amount of damage, and they've still got a pretty ferocious bite too. Keeping enemies at range is really good, and that's why I always try and use a spear. I love throwing them. Since I was so close to going and getting one of the important Omnant badges, I decided to go and risk it, even though it would mean fighting a whole ton of the larvae, as these guys were coming back. Did you know that these pretty much all sleep around here in the lower part of the yard? There's one more location that you'll find a ton of them in the wetlands, but a lot of them come all the way back over to this little corner, so it's probably the worst time to try and get this. But eventually I cleared the way and I managed to get the compliance officer badge. Managed to clamber up and get the Cyber Strike Scab, but of course I wouldn't be able to get the milk molar as we didn't have a tier 2 hammer, and you can't break into them until then. Don't forget, don't touch any of them plugs as they can instantly kill you too. The light was fading fast, but I decided to get some berries before I headed home, as again we're going to need a ton of these. With our final stop being to activate the field station just at the beginning of the hedge ascent. Next day I spent spending more time getting some of the important crafting stations like the drying rack with the aim of getting a tier 2 hammer. It's also time to start thinking about building a base, and I finally decided to build a baseball after so many of you guys always give me grief because I say it's a bad spot to build. Not that it's a bad spot, I just kind of find it a bit boring as you have to generally cover the baseball over. So I tried to do my best to keep some of it intact and have it as a little outpost. By the time I was done, the last bit of berry level was dried and I finally got to get my tier 2 hammer. Now we could go and get the most important thing, milk molars, to get ourselves some upgrades. I headed back into the cave where we took care of the mites and got some of the upgrades there. And I went back to the anthill and got some of the milk molars there as well. I always try and get my active mutations upgraded as much as possible, as I find that's a real help, and then maybe how quickly you regain your health. I was still going to need an absolute load of these though to really get the upgrades running. So I went and scoured all the quick and easy ones that I could think of around the oak tree as well as close to the pond. Should always be the first thing you aim for is getting your hammer and then getting as many of these as possible in the early days, especially in a hardcore run where the extra upgrades really come in handy. Quickly went and got some of the mints. Obviously if you eat one of them you unlock the fresh defense mutation which helps against the burning, especially handy against bombardier beetles, but if you eat all 10 pieces you unlock up to stage 3, which is obviously quick, easy and better. Spent the afternoon making myself a little small mini sap farm. It's worth getting these in the early stages because you need a lot of that sap to craft your own upgrades for your weapons and armors eventually. As day 5 was coming to a close, I did one last thing. We need to go and get some of the web, and it was worth killing a bunch of the spiderlings to get it. We was going to need to bring some of this with us when we go and explore some places like the hedge, as it's a quick way of crafting the tier 2 axe. But first we would have to put it through a spinner. You can find loads of spiderlings near the plank of wood where obviously their mama lives in the tunnel below. Went home, dumped my stuff off and crafted ourselves a spinner. Woke up the next morning and decided that it was time to go into the hedge. We'd have to do it in stages, and today it was about completing the actual hedge laboratory. But now we had a tier 2 hammer, I could also go and get that milk molar first before we went and explored the rest. It's a fiddly little jump, but you can jump on top of this little hedge and you will be able to get on top pretty quickly. Make sure you bring a couple tufts with you just in case you fall as we explore deeper in the hedge. The hedge can be pretty windy, and for the first time exploring it can be a bit of a challenge wondering where to go, or especially falling off. Don't forget also to deal with some of the spiderlings, and yeah, it can be a formidable challenge. But I've done the hedge so many times, whether it's guides or just playing it, I know it like the back of my hand. So if you need more dedicated help, you're fairly new to Grounded, go and check out any one of the multiple guides I've done on the hedge over the years. But my top tip is absolutely most important is find the resource scanner. It's in one of the pods just after you take your first zip line, and you'll have to defeat a few of the RTX. But this will help you massively in finding resources. It will scan anything that you've already found, bug parts, items, and of course yeah, it can keep track of them bugs. Although it doesn't list exactly where they are, only where they were previously when you scanned it. So by the time you go and find them, they may have moved slightly, so you've got to be quick or be pretty close to them at any of the field stations. Once that's done, it was back traversing through the hedge. I cleared out all of the science pods along the way, filled with granola bars, lots of data and maybe some more scabs. There's quite a few milk molars in here as well, so don't forget to go and get them, especially the one on the juice box that you can reach once you get a bit further in and double back on yourself. On the way, it's important to try and take care of as many of the egg sacs as possible. I told you guys to bring some of the fibre with you, and that's because you're going to be using it to go ahead and craft a tier 2 axe eventually. But you do need to get a ladybug head, and that's what I was trying to find in all of the egg sacs. You've got random chance of getting some of the early bug parts from these egg sacs, but yeah, it's not as much as it used to be. But I did eventually get hold of a head, and that's exactly what I needed. It takes that long, it was nearly the end of day 6 by the time we finally zip lined into the main hedge laboratory, activated the first panel, and this would open up the doorway in case you fell. You'd be able to climb back up to this point a little bit. You can place a sleep point on any of the branches pretty close by, and it's well worth doing so you can explore in the daytime. You don't have to worry too much about food and water when you're exploring here now that there's a water cooler inside the laboratory, and as long as you're going to not mind munching through your bars, food is good. You also do get a bunch of the meals if you've explored all the labs on the way through here as well. Obviously took out some of the spiderlings and the Allweaver Jr. that was guarding the main hub area in the lab. Then I went to work picking up all the password pieces we'd need to get into the room to get the super chip to return to Burgle. Earlier I told you guys you might need some silk rope with you so you could craft your tier 2. But there should be enough to go ahead and craft it in the actual resource room that you can find here too. Another password piece got and more spiderlings killed. The axe does need bombardier beetle parts, but hopefully you should have found some of them in the X-axe, or you might want to bring some with you just in case, or if you don't really want to clear them all out. The poor bee got stuck inside a laboratory, something I've never seen in 700 hours of Grounded, and I decided to take full advantage of it. So with all 4 pieces of the password now got, we can activate the final console, open up the doorway, and pretty much be done with the hedge lab. For newer players, don't forget though to explore the outer edges of the branch and hopefully find the observatory tower. This is where you find the recipe to take on the broodmother, which you need to summon her with a BLT. Nice little glide down, and yeah, it was time to head home. Returned the chip to Burgle, and now we had zip lines and ladders unlocked. And we went and spent the milk molars that I managed to get, with a few being hidden in and around the hedge laboratory. After a disturbing dream, it was time to go and get a Bratburst bomb, as we was going to try and explore the mysterious berry lab. This is where we would be able to pick up a OP tier 3 weapon, not to mention the berry charm. I went and crafted some of my favourite armour pieces and upgraded them, like the aphid slippers, and we needed some more fungal growth as well as ant eggs to make the bombs. So I donned my Weevil mask on and we went up to the Rake Rock. This might be one of the easiest ways to go ahead and get some fungal growth. If you're quick, you should be able to get some from the infected gnats. Not to mention some other dead bug parts that you can see lying around. Then back to the anthill to pick up one of the eggs, and doing a pretty quick job of getting out there. I didn't even bother putting my red ant armour on. As long as you're speedy, you can pretty much avoid the soldier ants and some smaller ones. Pro tip now, don't forget to craft your trophies. Whenever you kill a bunch of bugs, use the bug parts to make one, as this can help with raids. I knew it was going to be time soon for a raid to probably happen, since I'd killed a bunch of the spiderlings, and so that's what I was going to focus on, either having an Allweaver trophy or a spiderling trophy. The rest of the day though, we were going to go into that secret berry ledge. It'd be dangerous, there was loads of bombardier beetles around, and you need to build some sort of stairway up to the hidden entrance. But with our fresh defence equipped, it didn't take too long to take care of the 2 bombardier beetles that were here. I was a bit of a dumbass using the scaffolding. It was much easier if I just bought a whole bunch of clover leaves and some sap, and I could have made the clover ramps. But eventually we got in, throwing the grenade at the doorway, that's why we needed it, and taking a good step back. Inside you find the pinch whacker in the garbage can, and then the berry charm, as well as a whole bunch of resources in the chest. Now the rotten berry charm is one of my favourite builds. Pair that with either the rotten bee stinger, or the rotten larvae blade, or even the rotten ant club, and you can do extra toxic damage occasionally while in combat. So I figured since I was close by, I crafted a lean-to and carried on exploring the rest of the hedge, as I needed to clear out the bottom of the hedge areas where there was milk molars and a whole bunch more resources. Once again, throwing the spear comes in clutch. How lucky am I getting a gold Allweaver card straight away? The Rotten Ant Club, of course, is in the Homage to the Forest, which you can go and check out me covering in a big way on my main survival channel, JADE-PG. Shout out. I'll be covering the Sons of the Forest immensely with guides and gameplay, so go and subscribe right now. Something I don't recommend doing early game, unless you're really experienced, is going up to the water table, where you can find a bunch of mosquitoes. You can jump from the hedge branches over to this leaf here, and you can kind of shimmy your way up onto the main branch. But the water fountain is particularly challenging. The 3 mosquitoes are no joke, especially when you're still wearing only tier 1 armour. I was here to pick up the gold molar and some more science, But yeah, it's a real tough challenge killing these. They can knock you off and you can fall, or simply you'll get owned by 3 of them attacking at once. So try and separate them a little bit or take them on one at a time, and if things get too much, you can always dive into the water. But after using up pretty much all my health items, I just about managed to survive, and we managed to scan one of the mosquitoes. I took out the rest of them pretty quickly before nabbing that sweet gold molar. Once that was done, I went and cleared out the rest of the broken parts of the laboratory in the hedge, and then headed home for a good rest. It was now day 10. The first 10 days of survival were almost complete. As expected, I got attacked by a bunch of All Breathers raiding. I quickly put the trophy up, and that gave me an extra, I think 15 or 20% damage against them for 15 minutes. To be honest, I probably over worried, as you only get a small couple of them actually attack you in the first raids. It's only as the game progresses that you'll get more and more. Now to finish off day 10, it was a quick dive to cool off. First stopping off at my sap farm. I really wanted to get some of the diving gear that I wanted to go and explore the ponds in the next few days. So we need to kill a bunch of the water boatmen and pick up lots of the wax as well as the eelgrass. Returned home, crafted the next set of armour, and we were done. That's the full recap for the first 10 days, ready for you guys. In the next bunch of videos, you're going to see more in a Let's Play style format, but I'm still going to try and show you lots of things on how to survive. So I hope you enjoy the next series, and yeah, hopefully eventually we'll get to 100 days and you can see the 100 days video on my new channel. Yes, I'm going to have a new channel up very soon. It's called JADE-PG 100 Days, and it's me taking a look at survival games and trying to complete 100 days after streaming them all. So there you go. Hope you really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, and as always, I'll see you rat bags for more. Bye bye.